All right, so I thought this would be fun. I saw this tier list about the final raid bosses of Destiny 1 and 2. And I was just like, that's kind of interesting because I didn't rank, I ranked the raids and stuff. I didn't rank them based off the final boss encounters alone. So I thought this could be a pretty interesting idea because this kind of does change it up a little bit for me because we're only talking about, remember, the final bosses here. So this is not going to be a tier list of each individual raid. There might be parts of other raids that I like that, maybe I don't like the final boss encounter or I like the final boss encounter, but I don't like the rest of the raid. That's kind of where this is coming in to play. So let's just jump right into it. I have S tier, A tier, B tier, and boring tier. And I made boring for specifically one raid, but I feel like there might be another one in here. And you'll understand why in a second. We'll see if my picks are controversial. Remember, these are just my opinions. If you have different opinions, let me know down in the comments. I always like hearing you guys' opinions on stuff, and I like reading the comments and everything like that. Just don't be mean, please. All right, cool. Let's just jump right into it. So Atheon, I'm gonna give Atheon a B tier, mainly because it's kind of boring. Even when you get teleported into Venus or Mars for oracles, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. You kill the one Hydra, and then you wait for the oracles, you shoot the oracles, you run back out, and then you just do damage to Atheon. While the music, yes, is epic, and it's pretty cool in that respect, and Atheon being the first raid boss and also being a really cool looking boss, that's what I feel like gives him a step above boring tier. But besides that, it's kind of stale. It's kind of a stale boss fight, and I get it that it's the first raid they've ever made, so it kind of makes sense that that would be the most stale, or it would be stale at least. Um, I just don't feel like it's really that exciting. So yeah, it gets a B tier for me. That's just my opinion though. And then we got Callus, which this is definitely going to be a controversial pick because I think the Callus fight is fucking S tier. The amount of oh my god, I love this boss fight so much. If you remember in my raids tier list video, I said that Leviathan was an A tier raid because of the Callus fight. Maybe I put it in S tier, but I love the Callus fight. I think one of the Callus fight is one of the best mechanics in terms of raid final bosses that we've ever had. Um, it's just so cool getting teleported into the Shadow Realm, having three people leave, and then three people doing eyes, moving forward, killing Scions, and then shooting the mini Calluses, the balls he throws at you or whatever, and then you get teleported back in, and you do plate damage on three different plates. It was so hectic when it first came out, and I love that fight. I really want them to bring back that raid so badly, so badly. So yeah, that's definitely S tier for me. Just my opinion, once again. Galron. I will also no, I shouldn't say also. I'm gonna put Galron, just the final boss. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think it's really cool. I don't think it's boring per se. Um, yeah, I don't think it's boring. I think it's pretty cool. Like the arena's small enough to where it's a little hectic when you're trying to balance ads and the buff, and then shooting the hands. The damage phase is pretty short, so it's kind of hectic in that regard. But I'd confidently put it in B tier. I don't think it's boring, but I don't think it's the most exciting either. And then we have Insurrection Prime. I am going to put that in boring tier. I feel like more than half the team doesn't have to do anything. You just have the two people running, and then you have four people killing ads or whatever. I don't remember it being that exciting when I first did it. I don't remember it being exciting, even before it left. I mean, it's a cool boss fight. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's terrible. And I don't think any of these raids final boss fights are terrible. By the way, I should have said that before the list started. But I think it's definitely a boring fight, especially in comparison to Gowron, where I feel like there's more happening with Gowron because you're kind of using everybody. Whereas Insurrection Prime, it has that effect where it's not everybody's really doing something. So it's kind of just a boring fight for me. And then we have Nezarec. Now, day one Nezarec was pretty hectic and intense, but unfortunately, Nezarec now it's kind of falls under the same thing that Insurrection Prime falls under, where it's kind of two people doing a thing and four people killing ads, and then you do damage, and it's kind of just that. It's kind of boring. It's kind of not very fun. Um, Not the biggest fan of it, really. Not the biggest fan of it at all. And then we have what's it called? King's Fall. We have Mr. Oryx over here, which promptly gets an S tier. Mainly because you can have everybody doing something. Everybody can be involved with the mechanic. You have four people shooting bombs. You have one person holding the buff in mid. And that only leaves one person not doing anything. So it's kind of like a win-win. I feel like this boss fight did really good in Destiny 1, where it's it requires most of your team actually doing something to get to damage phase. It's not four people sitting around while two people do a thing, and then it's like okay, you two are done that thing. All right, we ready to do damage? I'm sitting in the middle for 15 minutes, and then let's do damage. It's like, no, you actually have to participate in order to be able to, do damage in this encounter. So I really like it. I've always really liked it. And then we have Rolk. I will put Rolk in A tier. I feel like it does have some dull moments, especially if you're not one of the people doing the L1, R1, L2, R2, R3, L3 things, or what do you call the pillars with the symbols? If you're not one of the dunkers, you're not one of the splitters, you kind of kill ads. But I feel like you can have like you kind of need at least I think like 3 or 4 people to be able to do that mechanic properly or at least efficiently. So I feel like it should be an A tier. Although I do feel like if you're I feel like it is slightly dull, but I feel like just the Rolk fight, like the damage phase of Rolk alone, once you get up to that final platform, is hectic enough to the point where it's enjoyable. So I think it gets a solid A tier for me. Um, Riven definitely gets an S tier. Having 3 people in different spaces, shooting the eyes, that whole thing, it's very engaging as a fight. And then the damage phases too are really cool. Having to like go up through the pillars, or what are they called, through the elevators, I guess you can call it, to each floors, and then you all meet and do damage there. I think that's really cool. I think it's a really good way to make everybody kind of do something, even if you have to have one person like dedicated to ad clear. Like it's kind of like always a necessity to have at least 1 or 2 people in a raid encounter dedicate to ad clear. It's pretty rare where we'll see an encounter where everybody has to do something to be able to progress it. Um, and I feel like Riven is a good example of having most of your team being able to do something you know, to engage the encounter, I guess is the best way to say it. And then we have what's his name? I don't remember his name, but Garden of Salvation boss. Garden of Salvation boss. Um, I think I'll give him a B. Like I said, the Garden of Salvation raid is kind of boring in itself. It is slightly engaging with having 2 people run on each side, then 2 people building in the middle. But I mean, just because it has like somebody doing like someone doing something like sorry, what am I trying to say, everyone doing something, Jesus Christ. Just because it has everyone doing something doesn't mean that it's that engaging. Like I feel like plate building, like it's kind of useless. Like you're kind of just half the time trying to avoid ads because you can't take the shields off because you don't have the people that have the buff on them to take the shields off. So you're kind of just waiting for that. You're building plates, which is not the most engaging thing. Running for moats is not that challenging. It never was, even on day one. So yeah, it kind of just gets a B tier. It's not boring really because you do have to do something, but it doesn't mean that something is very exciting. You know what I mean? And then we have Tanix. Now this one's kind of interesting. I'd confidently put Tanix in B tier. I want to put him in A tier, but it's just kind of easy. I feel like that should knock it down a level for being so easy. Um, I'm trying to think because if you do the 4 bomb strat, then you have to have everybody do something. So you know what? Yeah, I will move it to A tier. I really like the Tanix fight. I like how there's actually like a challenge in the DPS fight. It's not just a simple like stand there for 45 seconds and shoot the boss and then that's the damage phase. I like that he knocks you out. You have to get back in. You can rebubble. You can put down a new well. If you do 4 bombs at once, you get a third damage phase. So it actually rewards you for doing the harder strat, which is shooting all his bombs and then having 4 people carry over. So it actually encourages you to have everybody on your team do something. So yeah, I actually think it deserves an A tier, even if it is pretty easy. I think it is still at least engaging and it's a good boss fight. So yeah, that is my boss fights tier list, my raid final boss fights tier list. Sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know where you think I'm wrong. Let me know what you agree with. Um, you know, I know my list isn't the right list. It's just my opinions. Maybe you guys could have loved Insurrection Prime or Nezarec. I just personally think they're both kind of boring. But I enjoy all these raids personally. It's just like I said, my opinions of what could be done better, or what is the problems with these encounters. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and yeah, thanks for watching. All right, bye.